Day one of the NFL draft is in the books, so I want to look at some draft targets for the Broncos in day two. We'll do a little bit of a mock draft. They only have one pick in day two currently in round number 3, but we'll give you guys an idea of who they could go with at that selection. Now, I quickly want to plug that Chat Sports, the mothership here, my employer, will be live for days 2 and 3 of the NFL draft. So if you see this thumbnail, come click on it because it's going to be the most entertaining and informative draft coverage on YouTube. Now, let's start by recapping the first round of the NFL draft, where we saw a lot of chalk to begin, no real surprises here. Then we had the Chargers go Joe Alt. That could be a problem with them having 2 perennial all-pro tackles in my eyes. Malik Neighbors goes to the Chargers. The Titans go offensive line, no surprise there. The Falcons made the biggest surprise of the NFL draft, and I really think they may be sitting and thinking to themselves, we may want to go back and undo that pick. Roma Dunze goes to the Bears at number 9. The Vikings take J.J. McCarthy, and the Broncos get Bo Nix at pick number 12. A pick that the fan base is not completely in agreement on. There's definitely a lot of things to like about Bo Nix's game. He's got a lot of experience. I mean, a little bit of shades of like Brock Purdy coming out of Iowa State. He knew how to read defenses. He knew how to give play calls. He knew how to command an NFL huddle. So those are traits that coaches really like in young quarterbacks. Now, I have my own concerns about his ability to push the ball down the field because he was not asked to do that at Oregon. But we'll find out in the NFL if he's the hidden gem of this draft because he wasn't asked to do it at Oregon, but he has this secret talent that no one has seen so far. Ultimately, there's a lot of pros, and there are some fairly given cons to the Bo Nix draft pick and just the overall player makeup. But how would you grade the pick? A, B, C, D, or F? I gave it a B- last night. I'm trying to warm up to it because I always want to be optimistic, but the reality is every single NFL draft, every team wants to be upbeat and optimistic about their pick, when the reality is you look back at drafts just 1, 2, 3 years ago, and half of the first-round picks are deemed bad. Now let's move on to the rest of round 1 before we look at some round 2 guys to look at, or day 2 guys to look at. Brock Bowers to the Giants. To the Raiders, that's a growing concern right there. I think Bowers is a really, really special player. The Saints go offensive tackle, no surprise. The Colts take the first defensive player off the board. The Seahawks beef up their interior defensive line with Byron Murphy. Dallas Turner falls all the way to the Vikings. When the Falcons went Michael Penix and the Broncos were on the clock at 12, I thought they may go Dallas Turner here. Ultimately, I think it's a really good pick for the Vikings. Amarius Mims goes to the Bengals. A bit of a head-scratcher because you're in a win-now mode and you took a developmental project tackle who only has 8 career starts. Jared Verse to the Rams. I think it's a really smart selection for LA to get some more pass rushers there. The Steelers go offensive line. The Dolphins go Chop Robinson in an attempt to make up for all of the pass rushers they lost in free agency, and I don't think this is the guy to do it with. The Eagles get Quinyon Mitchell. They've got a really good safety or cornerback room now. Brian Thomas is a Jacksonville Jaguar because Calvin Ridley left in free agency. Terrion Arnold is a Lion, and I think that's a really good selection by Detroit. The Packers go with Jordan Morgan to replace David Bakhtiari in part. The Bucs get a new center for Baker Mayfield. The Cardinals bring in some defensive line help by Darius Robinson, a really big player who's got a high motor and has some good production from his time in Columbia. The Chiefs got the fastest guy in the draft, which you know Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are going to have a field day with, so you got that to look forward to. The Cowboys, as always, go offensive line. The Ravens take Nate Wiggins, a really fast and lengthy cornerback. Ricky Pearsall goes to the 49ers, which makes you wonder, could a Deebo Samuel or Brandon Ayuk trade be in the works? And then the Panthers get Xavier Legette, the hometown Carolina kid. Now let's fast forward to pick 76, the next time Denver is on the clock. I don't think they're going to move up. If they do, it won't be a whole lot because they just don't have the ammunition to offer to move up. Maybe they dangle some of their fifth-round picks, but I don't know if that would be enough to really make a big jump. So before we look at which player I would take at 76, let me tell you guys about our sponsor today, which is Prize Picks, the #1 daily fantasy sports platform in North America, because all you have to do is pick 2 to 6 players and then choose more or less on their projected stats. Now, after the first round of the NFL draft, Prize Picks already put out stat projections for the 2024 NFL season, and I'm all over these. I love the more on Caleb Williams for the Bears. I like the less on J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings. 3,100 yards for a backup quarterback? That's a big number right there. Also like the more on Malik Neighbors. 875 yards, felt a little bit too low for one of the most talented wide receivers we've seen enter the draft in the last few years. So if you like my selections, feel free to ride with me by downloading the Prize Picks app and using code CLNS for a first-time deposit match up to $100. I put all that information for you guys in the comments and description of today's video. Prize Picks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Now, looking back at the 5 players I identified for pick 76, Adisa Isaac, the Penn State pass rusher, 7.5 sacks, 33 pressures. He was a team captain for the Nittany Lions. At round 3, this is probably as good as you're going to get. Kentucky's got a really solid corner in Drew Phillips. He got picked on a lot in coverage last year, but there's a lot of good traits that people are raving about him in round number 2 to 3. Kyrie Jackson, he was initially an Alabama player, then transferred to Oregon, really blossomed. He's got the good physical makeup, excellent speed as well. So I think this is a name that if Denver wants to bring in another cornerback, they could go with him. Jermaine Burton, he's another guy to watch for. Started his career off at Georgia, made some big plays for the Bulldogs. Then he goes to Alabama, where he doesn't necessarily have the best production in the world, but people really like the size and speed. So you could see that be a move for the Broncos if they want to bring in another wide receiver after trading away Jerry Jeudy. Ultimately, I think they're going to go with Chris Jenkins. That would be my mock draft pick for the Broncos. 6'2", 299 pounds. He was a 2-year starter for the Michigan Wolverines, where he didn't necessarily fill up the stat sheet. But when you talk to people about Chris Jenkins, everyone just raves about him. The way he plays on the field, just the overall 100-mile-per-hour speed he brings on every single play, his leadership skills. I think if Denver wants to go and beef up their interior defensive line, which was awful last year, Chris Jenkins is definitely a really good football player, a well-rounded guy who was a leader on one of the best defenses we have seen in college football the last decade plus. And Sean Payton is always looking for high-character quality guys, and Chris Jenkins just screams Sean Payton type of player. Now, who do you want the Broncos to pick? We got a long way to wait until pick 76, but let me know in the comment section who you want to see Denver select with their current third-round draft pick. All right, that will do it for us on today's show. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We will be back here, of course, in a few hours for a pick-by-pick analysis and breakdown. So make sure to subscribe to the channel. That way you do not miss a single thing for the 2024 NFL Draft.